Hello, hello. I hope you are all doing wonderful today. So this is going to be, I guess, the second lesson on this journey in this program. And I got some guidance on what to talk about, and then I was tuning in and I asked for a more direct message of what we should do this week and what we all needed this week. And so the message that I got was self-love. And so me being a human and having an ego, I questioned it. Oh my gosh, I get guidance and I question it. Not proud of that, but the reason that I questioned it was because I'm like, it's talked about so much, right? And what can I share with you that you probably already haven't heard? But that was my ego side. Okay, so we're gonna put that aside. And then as the divine does, after I questioned it, I learned my answer. So we will go over that, but that is what we are focusing on today. True unconditional self-love in the way that was shown to me in order to help you. It's not like I'll be saying anything new or profound, but I'm hoping to just share this energy with you and kind of take you through a bit of a process to help you really find that within yourself. And so I asked as well, I was like, well, are we going to get into more twin flame, like actual twin flame healings? And yes, we will. We will. But you working on this is the biggest thing that you can do for your twin flame relationship. Without a single doubt. For everybody. This is the biggest thing that you can do. And so when we talk about self-love, we have to first recognize that we are all divine beings. We are all unique expressions of this divinity. Gods and goddesses within these human bodies, these human minds. You are 100% unconditional love and light. That's who you are. That's what your soul is. That's what your consciousness is. That's beneath it all. That's what you are. That's what your twin is, beneath it all. But we're just not aware of it. And kind of the visual that I got when exploring this for myself before I could make this video for you all, the visual that I got is there's nothing we need to do because it's who we are. We are pure love. So we deserve unconditional love. We deserve to give it. We deserve to receive it all of the time. But we always want to be able to do something. Like, I want to be able to love myself more. What do I do? There's nothing to do because it's what you are at your soul. The only thing that makes you unable to feel it are all of these patterns, like the energy patterns, all of these blocks, all of these subconscious agreements that we've made, that we've been conditioned to believe our whole lives. So there's nothing to do to make you feel unconditional love for yourself. What we do in the process is continuously bring ourselves back to that unconditional love and recognize anything that's not of that as not our truth. And we'll go into that a little bit more in just a second. So that's the first piece that I'm really being guided to tell you, is that you are unconditional love. Anything that does not make you feel that way is not the truth. It's something that you picked up along your journey to learn a lesson. And the lesson always is to come back to that unconditional self-love because you are so worth it. And I'm getting like emotional talking about this because I know how out of touch we are. And I know how, like, on a soul level, many of us don't feel this for ourselves. And many of us were told, or many of us were told that we weren't lovable, and through either words or actions of another, and then through our own minds. And we weren't told enough by everybody and by ourselves how very lovable we are. And so to really feel this for ourselves, there's just so much that is in the way of it. And that's just the way, it's just the way it is. So a few things to get me back on track. Okay, the lesson that I learned, I want to share that with you first. Okay, so I'm sure most of you are probably familiar with Louise Hay, and she talks a lot about self-love. And that's what she always says, she passed away now, but if you ever listen to any of her talks or anything, everything comes back to self-love. And it's one thing to listen to that, it's another thing to really try and embody it. And so a while ago, about a year ago actually, almost exactly a year ago, in my twin flame relationship, we went through a very, very challenging time, a very challenging event. And leading up to that event, I listened to a book, I think, on tape of Louise Hay, and she mentioned something that people who procrastinate tend to feel unworthy, and I am a huge procrastinator, and I recognize that my whole life I felt unworthy. And so listening to that, I began to really, really put a lot of focus and a lot of attention, a lot of my intention on my own worthiness and loving myself. And so I will share this with you. If you've never done this exercise before, then I encourage you to do so. Just borrowing from Louise Hay, this is nothing that's new, but this is what I did. I would affirm over and over and over and over again that I love and approve of myself and I am worthy. And then I would fill in the blank of what I was worthy of. Because so much of my mental chatter, even though it wasn't directly telling me I wasn't lovable, or it wasn't directly saying that you're not worthy, but it was in other words. Everything was not of love. It was making me feel unworthy, not good enough. And so I don't know if any of this is sparking something in you when you think about what you think, like feeling like you always have to do more, feeling like it's never enough, feeling like you're never going to get what you desire. Those are all thoughts that are basically saying you're unlovable, you're not worthy. Okay, so I knew that I had to switch that. So I'm telling you, like over and over and over and over again in my mind, I love and approve of myself and I am worthy of a happy relationship. I am worthy of marriage. I am worthy of receiving love from others. And so I would switch what I was saying I was worthy of, but it always started, I love and approve of myself and I am worthy of blank. Insert whatever I was struggling with that day. So if I was really struggling with feeling unlovable, then I would say, I am worthy of feeling lovable. I am worthy of receiving unconditional love from others and myself. So I did that. And every time I looked in the mirror, I would say, I love you. I love you. And so I encourage you, if you haven't tried these yet, to do it yourself. But I'm getting to a point in my story, I promise you. So I did that. And like I mentioned at the introductory video, since I was not in like what you would consider like separation or complete separation, I could see how this shifted the energy. And I thought that me doing this would prevent this event from happening. And I'm just gonna be honest, like I trust you with this. We had a wedding planned and we called it off, and I knew it was coming, but I was trying to prevent it. So I trust you with my personal story because I know that you'll respect that. Okay, so that's what the event was. And so leading up to that, for several months prior to actually calling it off, doing all this stuff, and I could see the shift. I'm like, wow, this is like really working. Closer to us calling off the wedding, I got really into Abraham Hicks teachings. And Abraham Hicks, if you're unfamiliar with her, she's very much law of attraction. And she talks about, like, we all have this vortex, and it's where we put all the things that we want. And so once we set intentions, we have desires, then they're already in our vortex, okay? But what we need to do is focus on feeling good and getting to the vibration of the vortex. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, the wedding, what I would consider union, right? The wedding is in this vortex, okay? And I need to get my vibration to a place so I can match it, so that we don't have to call it off, so that we can go through with it and everything's beautiful. And I visualize like all of it, just this beautiful loving energy, right? So I never honestly felt so good in my life when I was putting 100% of my focus on self-love, on getting myself into that positive vibration, because I put so much intention and so much energy into it. And I can see the vibrational shift in myself, in my relationship. And then we called it off. And so I got out of that space, because in my mind, I was like, I could feel it, I could see it, like this still happened, right? So like, and that was part of our journey, and that was something that needed to happen in hindsight, because it was part of our journey. And after that point, I could never get back to where I was in terms of self-love. I could never get back to that like such super high vibrational place. Now when I'm doing like an energy healing, meditation, stuff like that, I get there. But I'm telling you, by focusing on self-love, I was consistently there all day. And it like almost didn't even matter. They say going with the flow, like I could feel just walking through my days like the flow of energy. It's indescribable, okay? And I couldn't get back there until, and I tried, man, like I would try to be like, say the mantra love and do the love and improve myself, but I could not just capture that feeling until I was given the insight to talk about self-love this week. Because, I'm on this journey with y'all. We're doing it together. And so whenever I was given that insight, I was able to get back into that, and I still am. Like I still am getting back to the point that I was before, like a year ago. And, but here's the lesson. Here's the lesson, okay? This time, there's not a contingency on it. This time, I'm coming from a place of self-love to get myself in that vibration. And it's not because I want a wedding. It's not because I want X, Y, and Z. Where before, even though I was really in this vibrational place, there was a contingency, there was an attachment placed on it. And so once that attachment didn't come to fruition, that contingency, I dropped out of it and I could not get myself back. And so just recently, I've been able to get myself back to that love without any contingencies. Just because I know that's my true essence. And the intuition I got was I needed to kind of get back to this place so that I could experience the trueness, the purity of unconditional love for the sake of just unconditionally loving myself. And I needed to be able to experience, let me center myself so I can give you the true intuition I got. I needed that motivation of bettering my twin flame relationship, of having union or wedding. I needed that motivation to get me there in the first place. I fell out of it because I needed to learn a whole bunch of lessons this past year. And now I'm able to get back into it without the contingency. and know that that's my true essence. So I speak about this for two reasons. One, because I can tell you without a single doubt in my mind that you raising your vibration to unconditionally loving yourself will have an incredible impact. It might not make things play out exactly the way your mind thinks that they should, but it will without a doubt have an incredible impact on your life and on your twin flame relationship. Secondly, whatever your motivation is for self-love right now, that's where you should be. If your motivation for self-love is that twin flame relationship, is that twin flame union, then that's where you need to be. But eventually, where we'll all get is that place of unconditional love without any attachments or without any contingencies. But whatever your motivation is right now, allow it to be your motivation, because it's getting you where you want to be. Okay, so what is next? So when we focus on loving ourselves, it takes just that. It takes focus. It takes intention, and it takes energy. Because our minds and our energies are so used to a pattern that is the opposite of self-love. So like I said before, I consistently, to get my vibration where it was, repeated the mantra, I love and approve of myself, and I am worthy. I looked in the mirror and I said it. I would just breathe in love and exhale love, and I would feel like you can just allow yourself to feel your love. You can breathe in love, feel the love, exhale love. Just feel it and just imagine it growing and growing and growing. With every inhale, you imagine the love from the universe that is ever present, omniscient. It's always here for you. You breathe it in, you're so worthy of receiving it, and you breathe it out and it expands. Doing things like that on a consistent basis, raise your vibration to self-love. You want to remind yourself how worthy and how lovable you are. Being grateful for who you are, recognizing that every single one of us is different for a reason. We're all different expressions of the divine. You cannot compare yourself to any other person, to any other relationship. You cannot judge yourself based on a comparison of somebody else. And I'll give you an example from yesterday, how, again, if you take everything as a lesson, then the journey becomes easier. So yesterday I was triggered because I met somebody and she triggered my ego because it made me feel less than. I was like, wow, you're really, really good at this. You're really, really good at something I want to be really, really good at. And that triggered my ego. And then I took the lesson, I came back to self-love and said, wow, isn't that beautiful that she's so good at that one thing? That is her unique expression of the divine. And I can learn from her. Not copy her, but learn from her. And that her being really good at one thing doesn't take away from other things I'm good at. But saying that from a place of self-love, not the ego, because your ego can grab a hold of that. Like, well, you might be good at that, but at least I have this. It's coming from just that unconditional place of self-love. So, never comparing. Really, truly don't compare yourself to anybody. The next thing that on my self-love journey I learned along the way and I want to share with you is only do things that feed your soul. Don't do things that create fear or create doubt or trigger you. So right now, when you're really learning to be this expression of love, you have to be a little more cautious and just more aware of what feeds your soul and what doesn't feed your soul. And so I'll give you another example. I went out to dinner with a couple of acquaintances who are both married and they have children, and they're asking me the questions like, well, when's your wedding? Are you gonna have kids? When are you gonna have kids? Like the whole, how we get the pressure, and that triggered me. And that was not good for my soul. It just wasn't. And yes, there will be a time where I can go out with them and be like, just know in my head, like, I'm on my journey and this is where I'm supposed to be, and you're on your journey and that's where you're supposed to be without being triggered. But again, I'm still human and that triggered me. So I have to know that's not good for my soul right now. Okay, and it's just kind of putting up those boundaries. So this can be people you hang out with. This can be, people you talk to, conversations you have. Also, what you watch. So there was a period of time where I hung on the word of every card reader that I would watch on YouTube. And I talked about this in one of my Twin Flame videos, I think. And then I got very strong guidance that I need to stop watching every single reading and just focus on, I think it was more like law of attraction, energy, like that kind of stuff. And it was freaking hard, man. Like to go from like, what's this reading say? What's this reading say? What's this person say? To cut going like, and I had my weekly readings that I watched every single week. And I cut myself off cold turkey, and it was hard. And then they'd pop up on my news feed or my YouTube feed, and I'd want to click on them, but I would know that wasn't good for my soul. And that, now I'm kind of at a place where I can go back and watch readings and it doesn't trigger me, but I had to know at that time, they made me feel worse more than they made me feel better. And it wasn't the readers, it was me, it was my triggers. If they would say one word that triggered me, I would hold on to it. So just paying attention what it is for you. What do you need right now? What feeds your love that you have for yourself? And what triggers it? What triggers these old thoughts and these emotions that make you not aligned with self-love? And you have to just eliminate those and know that a lot of times it's not permanent. It's just what you need right now. And just always checking in with yourself and saying, what do I need right now? And we'll talk about one more thing and then we'll move on. Also self-care, that just came to me. That's something that a lot of us struggle with. Honor yourself. That might be setting boundaries, that might be saying no to things, but honor yourself and do something for yourself every single day. And I'm serious, every single day. And do it intentionally from a place of love. Also gratitude, I just got that. Saying things that you're grateful for about yourself. I want to give you different things and you take what resonates. You don't have to do all of them, right? Like just take what resonates. So saying things that you're grateful for, and a lot of times it can just be superficial, like I'm grateful for my sense of humor. I have a good sense of humor. I know I'm grateful for that. And then you can go even like deeper, like into what you're grateful for. Like I'm just grateful for me. I'm grateful for who I am. And just feeling that. Feeling grateful for what you have in your life. Again, it can be superficial. It can be like, I'm grateful for I love my bed and my pillow. It's really soft. And I'm grateful for that. Just things like that. I'm grateful for my coffee maker. I really like it. If that makes you feel more loving, then do it. Add it in. But be intentional about it. And I can't emphasize that enough. We have to be intentional, because if we're not intentional right now, then all the other crap gets in the way. And it can suck us in really, really easy. Okay, so I want to move on now to talking about what we're going to be focusing on in addition to this, and how this focus of what we're going to talk about next is going to help with the self-love piece, okay? They're definitely tied in together. So the second piece for this week, something that I've been guided to have everybody focus on, is what lies you've been telling yourself. Maybe your whole life. And how they manifested. So again, the best way to explain this is through an example. So a lie that you tell yourself is something that we have adopted in childhood. Maybe somebody straight up told you it and it just was a misperception on their part. Maybe from the way that others acted towards you, maybe from your observations as a child, you develop these lies about yourself. And they continue to affect you and manifest in a variety of ways. So I'll get into the example really quick. I want to show you the book. I took a picture on my Instagram and put a picture up of it. It's called The Four Agreements, and it's a very popular book. And many of you may have already read it. If you have, and if you haven't, it might be a good idea to revisit it. Also, he writes another book called The Mastery of Love, which I mentioned a couple weeks ago. Both are exceptionally good books to understanding how we develop these belief systems about ourselves that take away from our self-love. But the reason I share this book really quickly is that the premise of the book is that we have these agreements. Like, you were born a divine, beautiful, perfect soul. And we are what he calls, we get domesticated as humans. We are never, no matter how open and loving your family was, or how accepting maybe some of your teachers were, we are never able to just from a baby grow up and be the fullest expression of who we are. We are domesticated. We're told always to listen to parents, to teachers, to adults because they know best. We ask questions a lot of times and you get the answers when you're a child because I'm the parent and you're the child, and so you just do it. Or it's just the way it is. So we're kind of almost taught a lot of times not to question things, not to wonder if something feels bad, and we are trained and we're fed these beliefs to live a certain way. And so he talks about that in this book and kind of how to break out of these agreements, he calls it. We make these agreements. So I'll give an example from the book and I'll give an example from my own life. So the book, he gives an example of this little girl, and she's 4 years old, and she's singing, she's dancing, she's having all this fun, and her mom just had a really bad day at work, and she had a headache. And so the daughter is singing, and the mom lashes out, not because of the daughter at all, but just because the mom had a headache, and the daughter was just living in joy and triggered the mom. That's all it was. So the mom lashes out at the little girl and says, "Stop making all that ruckus, it's giving me a headache." And so the little girl interprets that as her voice, her singing, is bad, and that she needs to be quiet, not to hurt other people. That's an agreement at that very point in time that she made. And then she carried that her whole life. So you can think it's not like a blaming game. We don't blame it on our parents, on our teachers. They're human. They were triggered, they had certain belief systems, and then because of our experiences as children, we make these agreements. And that's why we're talking about this week the lies that you tell yourself, or the agreements, if you'd rather say that. What agreements did you make that do not serve you? And so I'll give an example from my own life. So an agreement that I had from a little girl had to do with my parents got divorced. They had a very, very nasty divorce. And then after the divorce, they both got into relationships that were also dysfunctional and unhealthy. And so when I was a kid, I was an empath and didn't know it, right? And this realization actually came about through a conversation I had with my mom recently, who went through her own journey and healing and all that kind of stuff. And she said to me, she was like, "You were always such a sensitive kid." She was like, "And you were a barometer. So when things weren't going well in the home, the way that I was acting, if others were paying attention, they could see that something was wrong. And so I would act out because I didn't know how to handle these emotions." And so looking back, as a child, I'm feeling these emotions that are going on all around me. And I don't know what to do with them. So I acted out because I didn't have tools to handle these feelings that I was getting everywhere. And I also made an agreement with myself in order to stop being hurt by all this, I had to put a really hard shell over top of me, and I had to attack before I was attacked, basically. And so this manifested this agreement, this lie that I needed to always be defensive, basically, because the world was scary and it was going to hurt me. And it was a really, really hurtful place. And so I needed this shell, and I needed to hurt others before they hurt me. So I carried this agreement, I carried this lie with me my entire life. And it manifested in tons of ways. And one of the ways was with my twin flame relationship, because that's what happens, right? They're mirrors. And they trigger us. And so what would happen is my twin flame would not be feeling great. We're all on our own journey, right? And it would just not be a good day. And I would pick up on that, and I would feel it. Again, when we got together, I didn't know I was an empath either. So this whole, I'm just like a freaking sponge taking on everything and just like trying to just push it away because it hurts. So immediately he'd walk in the door and I would feel it. And my agreement that I made is anytime I felt like that, I needed to attack. And so I would. And so he would come home feeling like crap, not because of me, but another piece of that was like I always felt things were my fault because I could feel it so deeply, and growing up, like I acted out and then I would get in trouble. And so I had that internalization too. So he would come home, I would feel bad. I would automatically think it was my fault because that was a lie that I made, that I told myself that must be my fault. And I would lash out and I would say like, what the hell's wrong with you? And so if you're not feeling good and you come home and somebody says, what the hell is wrong with you? Then that obviously triggered him, and it led to a huge dysfunctional pattern in our relationship that needed healed. Looking back, it was a healing opportunity. But I mean, that came after years of that pattern. And then, when you have patterns like that, then resentment comes and all sorts of things come. So I bring this up not to talk about myself, but to give an example in hopes that this is starting to trigger some things within you, some thoughts within you, that of some lies, some agreements that you may have carried since you were 2 years old. They don't always have to play out in your twin flame relationships. A lot of times they do, because that's kind of the nature of these twin flame relationships, but they can play out in everything, in your work, financial situation, your friendships. But what are some lies that you have told yourself that are not the truth? Remember, you are love. You are light. That is truly who you are. That is your true essence. Somebody who has a quick temper, that's not who you are. If you say I'm sharp-tempered, that's not who you are. That's an agreement that you made as a form of protection a long time ago. That's it. So think if you're uncomfortable with your body, it's an agreement that a lot of us make, that our body is not good enough. Our personality isn't good enough. And that manifests in trying to shy away from the world, to hide ourselves in fear of judgment. But it's not the truth. You are a divine expression. You incarnated with your personality, you incarnated with your body, all for a reason, and all for maybe lessons to learn along the way. But the agreement that who you are, is not good enough for any reason is a lie. So that's what we're going to focus on this week. The lies that you have been telling yourself. And I'm giving you a lot of stuff this week. I'm giving you 2 meditations. The first is called the Black Balloon Technique, and that's the one where we really get into some of these core beliefs and release them and replace them with more positive affirmations and things. And then the second one is the shredding technique, which you can do in the evenings, especially if you've had a bad day and you just have a lot of stuff that you need to get rid of. It's more of a releasing meditation. So there are 2 20-minute meditations. The Black Balloon Technique, if you're going to do both, I would do the Black Balloon in the morning, the shredding in the evening, but don't feel obligated. I mean, this is just resources for you. You can listen to them both. If one resonates right now, use that. If the other one doesn't, then keep it for later. It's just tools to help you. I'm also going to share with you a 45-minute space clearing energy healing session and a 45-minute positive energy infusion session for your space. And these are things that I actually sell on my website, but I don't think any of you have them. So basically, if you are not in the habit of clearing out your space, what happens is, like, we go throughout our days and we just pick up on energy, right? And people come into our space and they leave an energy imprint, or you have a terrible day at work and you come home and you have that on you and you leave it in your space. So if you have crystals, or if you're used to using sage, Palo Santo to smudge, that's great. What I wanted to do was give you these MP3s. So all you have to do, I'd recommend once a week, playing both of them. So first you play the space clearing session, and what this is energetically clears your space. You can do it while you sage or smudge. I also have free ones of these on YouTube that are 10 minutes long, but the 45 minutes one, like, they really get your stuff clean. So play the first one with the clearing, and then the positive infusion is just to infuse your space with positive energy. I do it anytime after I have guests, before I have guests, and after I have guests. Try and do it once a week. Sometimes I just, since I do a lot of energy healing, I try and do it on a regular basis, but I want to gift that to you just so that you have it, so you're working on yourself, right? You're working on this being of unconditional love in whatever ways fit your needs. So you want your living space to also exude that unconditional love. You want everything around you to vibrate at that unconditional love. And you don't want any, yucky energies that you might pull in by accident. You don't want them to stay. So actually, if you have windows, if you just crack them a little bit while you're doing the space clearing, it can help get everything out, and then kind of whenever you're infusing the space, raise your windows back up. And shut your windows, however they shut. Shut your windows, and then do the positive space infusion to really just so it all stays in. Okay, so what I want you to do, if you have time right now, is to just sit down, and I do want you to take this time if you can, and just journal what lies you've been telling yourself. And engage in these 2 meditations and focus on this self-love. And just clear out anything that is not a love and light. And as you do, you begin to vibrate at this place, at this higher level. And so I want to take a quick break and just mention this because I forgot to when I was originally filming this video. I'm going to give you a 20-minute Reiki healing session. It's going to be in the next video, and that's intended for you to do while you're journaling. So how I want you to structure the journaling session is just, I release the following, okay? And then just free write whatever's coming to your head. What lies? Ask yourself, what lies have I told myself? You can even write that down. What lies have I been telling myself? Write it down, write it down, write it down, write it down. But at the top of the paper, I release these now and forever. And then after you're done and you can read it over, then you can, if you so choose, have a new piece of paper with new agreements. And the old piece of paper, the things that you got rid of, burn it, rip it up, throw it away. The new agreements, keep it somewhere. Keep it somewhere. And the Reiki session that I'm going to do in the next video is going to help you with that on an energetic level. So you're going to hear music playing, you're just kind of going to see me holding my hands up, and that's, again, I'm just channeling high vibrational energy, love and light. It's all pure and positive if you're newer to it, channeling through me to you to help whatever you need going through this process. So if that's getting rid of things on an energetic level, if that's, for anything emotionally, it's just helping you go through this process of healing so you can come to self-love. And as always, and I didn't mention this either, If anything comes up or if you feel like things are going to come up that you need help processing, then I strongly encourage you to seek out a counselor or a coach, a therapist. If you're worried about finances, you can look up sliding scale counselors, because those are counselors who do it based on your income. So, anywhere from free to much, much lower cost than it would be. Because sometimes we do need help processing some of these things. So I'm a huge proponent of that. Okay, just wanted to add this in really quickly because I forgot to explain it. And so I'll leave you with one more thing because it just came to me. The reason that you working on self-love affects your twin flame relationship is because everybody, it's like your twin flame, since you have that connection, they can feel it. So if they're not feeling good, but you're holding a space of unconditional love, then you're feeling good for you, right? But you're also helping them feel better. Like I said, I witnessed it firsthand, 100%, without a doubt. Without a doubt. So the more you can just vibrate, the more you'll just see people responding to you differently. Because people pick up on vibrations. We don't know it. We don't realize we're doing it, but we do. Okay, so I will leave you with that because this video is already long enough. If you can do the journaling technique, whatever resonated in terms of self-love, put your focus there this week, if you can. And then I'll give you the links to all of those meditations and the space clearing, okay? I'm wishing you a beautiful week. I love you all so much. I honor the light that you are. All right. Namaste.